Let's bring in Douglas Smith. He's a former Assistant Secretary in the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. A lot to talk about here. Let's start with Montreal and the possible motives behind this mosque attack, the timing of it, considering, as we just heard, that Justin Trudeau said he's welcoming immigrants from other countries that were refused by the United States.
You know, absolutely. I mean, the Canadians have always done a really good job of policing within their own borders. I think the timing in relation to President Trump's announcement on Saturday is particularly troubling. I think what we need to watch for, though, is what will the reaction of the U.S. be? You know, will the U.S. say, you know what, we got to strengthen up the border between the U.S. and Canada? And all of a sudden, the Canadians who thought they could travel freely back and forth, you know, as our number one trading partner, are going to see some serious challenges. So I think it's a story that's developing that we'll have to watch closely.
And that's something a lot of people may have not realized, the ripple effect of this travel ban. Let's go to that, the legality of it, the president saying that he has broad discretionary power. How is this different than what other U.S. presidents have done in the past? And could this, in fact, become more permanent?
I think the biggest thing that's different is his complete lack of pre-planning on this. I mean, it was as if they sort of cooked this up, rolled it out in a matter of hours. They didn't usually, within the government, there's something called the interagency process, where the Department of Defense will weigh in, Department of Homeland Security weighs in, all the various agencies that have a say in all of this, within DHS, CBP, ICE, et cetera, will all have a say in this. We'll all get a chance to talk about it. Department of Justice will have a say in it. It would appear to me, it's sort of sitting on the outside now, that they had this and they just forced it down everybody's throat. I think the great challenge for the officers at Customs and Border Protection at the airports is they didn't quite know what to do. And to use that old sports analogy, you know, the tie goes to the runner. You know, these frontline officers not knowing the policy quite yet, you know, the tie goes to the government, and they're going to put the brakes on and stop anyone from coming in.
What are the broader implications of this? What message does this send to the international community, especially, as you mentioned, all these other agencies who may have daily business with other countries? You mentioned Homeland Security, the State Department. How will this affect working relationships?
Oh, I think it could potentially have just tremendous ripple effects. From the average business person, currently right now, Americans are allowed the visa-free travel to Europe as well. So if you're traveling to Germany for a business meeting, have your passport, get on a plane, and you go. You know, if things start getting escalated, the European Union could say, you know what, we're not honoring the Schengen visa anymore, and you can't come, American businessmen. I think for foreign tourists, travel and tourism is a massive export for the United States. It is staggeringly large. The average traveler from China to the United States spends $6,200 on their visit here. It is a big, big business. For every 33 of those tourists that come here to vacation in America, it's one U.S. job. So for a president who's trying to keep us safer and trying to create jobs, I think he potentially just threw a gigantic bucket of cold water on the very people that are trying to bring those kinds of jobs here.
Last question. Some have said that this action could actually invite terrorism to the United States. What's your take on that?
I think tragically, yes. As I was saying to you before, there are very few things in the world with more than 1 billion people. Facebook, the country of India, and Muslims. He just declared war on 1 billion Muslims the world over. And for the most part, I mean, not the most part, except for a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage, you know, Muslims are God-fearing, respectful people who have been on the front lines fighting terrorism with us for all these many years. And he's now just said, you know, we don't trust it. And it doesn't really matter kind of as they parse the words, this comes down as a Muslim ban. And, you know, I think the tragedy was it was announced on a day commemorating when the United States government didn't let Jews in from Europe into the United States during World War II. And I think it's a story that we're going to have to watch, and that can have some very, very dangerous effects on our ability to keep America safe.
All right, Douglas Smith, we appreciate your insight as always. Thank you.